Good evening. We are back to the study of the Spirit's book. Oops, heard the wrong one.
That's right, 287.
287. Didn't show. Okay. 287. We are studying relationships from beyond the grave. And we started last week. We still have some questions here to finish. It's relationships that happen with spirits. What do they find when they go back to the spiritual world? How they are received? Where they find themselves? What happens to them? Mostly, these are the questions Kardec is asking the spirit. Okay, so 287.
How is the soul welcomed when returning to the spirit world? The righteous are welcomed back as dearly beloved family members who have been long expected, while the wicked are despised.
Again, we spoke last week when we are returning to the spiritual world. It depends on our condition, right? Our understanding of our situation, our understanding of the spiritual world, but above all, how we behaved in our last incarnation, in the incarnation we are departing. If we try to learn, try to evolve morally, try to find help and assistance when needed, to help and assist others, we are going to be received by our loved ones, by the spiritual protectors, and will be protected and guided. If we are, if we dedicated our life to material things, worried about money and survival of ourselves above others, or we've committed acts that can be considered as not positive, we are going to face more challenges. And of course, those that do not understand the spiritual life, do not accept spiritual life, then they're going to have to wait some time to understand where they are, and they can be lost, they can be confused for some amount of time. So depends on the spirit discarnating. But as a general rule, if we did our best in this physical life, we should expect to be received by our loved ones. Not all of them, because they need to be also in good conditions to receive us. Of course, you know, if we have a loved one that loved us but didn't love anyone else and cause a lot of harm and pain to others, it is probably not in condition to receive us in the spiritual world. And we gave the examples of André Luis, both with his father and his grandfather, that we learn about them through in No Solar and then in the greater world. So depends on the individual, but you know, considering we're making the effort, considering we understand about our reality as eternal spirits, and we accept the reality of us going back to the spiritual world when our physical body dies, we should be received by a welcome team of spirits on the other side. Maybe not all spirits we want to meet, but some of them for sure. Okay.
288.
Yeah.
I just sort of mentioned that the weak ones are also loved. They also have loved ones, right? And the question is the weak that despise, but despised by whom? No, they also have loved ones. Just because they are weak, they are mean, they are bad, doesn't mean that they are abandoned. They have those who love them as well, but they are not in condition to perceive their presence. Their conscience will allow them only to see those with whom he had caused problems, and those ones that despise that individual.
Yeah, it's a very good point, and you know, you don't even have to be weak, right? André Luiz took a long time to meet his mother, so he was not received by his mother immediately. Of course, André Luiz didn't pay much attention to the spiritual world before discarnated and committed some not so good acts against himself, basically. But again, it took some time for not because his mother didn't want to receive him. She did, but he was not ready to meet her, right? Okay.
288. How do impure spirits feel when they see another bad spirit joining them? They are delighted to see others like them who are also deprived of supreme happiness, similar to thieves welcomed by their peers.
Misery loves company, right? A phrase we always repeat here. So of course, these impure spirits, when they have other inferior spirits joining them, they are happy, delighted, because they want to, you know, a gang wants to have as many members as they can put together, right? Because they become more powerful. So of course, impure spirits will feel happy to see other spirits as inferior as them joining them. Now, those that are the responsible dominate these teams normally are the ones that grab those spirits, the so-called bad spirits, right? And again, I mentioned last week the movie Ghost, right? When the killer dies, he's immediately taken away by some dark shadows, which we can see others. We can say there are the spirits that immediately take him to the inferior places that they are going to find themselves, right? That again, it's a matter of vibration and syntony. We are going to find ourselves surrounded by those that feel and vibrate like us, positive or negative. Okay.
$289.
Yes, please.
Do our friends and family ever come to meet us when we leave this world? Yes. They meet the souls of their loved ones, welcome them like travelers safely returning from a journey, and help them to free themselves from their material bonds. Being met by loved ones is a favor granted to good spirits. Meanwhile, the wicked are punished by being left alone, or as a result of only being surrounded by spirits who are like themselves.
So again, more of the same here, right? Good spirits will be received by their family members, their loved ones, who will try to help them on the transition, right? Of going back to the spiritual world, finding themselves in different places and being assisted by loved ones in directing them to where they should be. Again, the wicked are punished. Punished is a word that you know, they are punished by themselves. Their own conscience, their own vibrations make them be either alone or surrounded by spirits that vibrate at the same level that they are. So it's a consequence of the natural law. It's not a an external punishment. It's a consequence of the natural law that makes them find themselves surrounded by spirits that vibrate like they do, same level of vibration. Okay. 290.
Do relatives and friends always reunite after death? That depends on their elevation and their road to advancement. If one is more advanced and progresses more rapidly than the other, they cannot stay together. They may see each other occasionally. They are reunited only when they can walk side by side, or when both of them have reached equality in perfection. Sometimes spirits who are deprived of seeing friends and family have had this inflicted upon them as an atonement?
Okay. Of course, here we go back to André Luiz and his mother, right? Finally, he meets his mother in Ossular, and she lives in a more advanced, more elevated colony in the spiritual world, in a different dimension, different plane. So she can go and meet him, but she doesn't stay there because she lives her life in the more advanced spiritual plane. They don't stay together. They see each other occasionally, as the Spirit says here. For them to be together, walking side by side, as they say here, they have to be at the same level of evolution. But even, we have to understand that spirits in the spiritual world, they have their own occupations, they have their own works and tasks. So it's not that they are going to be together all the time. They are going to be together. Again, André Luiz, when we think about Lysia's family, right? There was Lysia's, and that invited André Luiz to live in his house there in Ossular. It was his mother. It was his, I think, one or two sisters that he had there. So all spirits at the same level of evolution, all living in Ossular, they stay together. The father, I think the father, if I remember correctly, had just reincarnated, right? He had just reincarnated. The mother was going to reincarnate very soon. So spirits that are at the same level of evolution will have the opportunity of being together in the organized colonies. Of course, when we're talking about the lower zones, when talking about this, the dark zones, then it's really not that easy to be with loved ones, because our minds are distracted by inferior thoughts that do not allow us to be with our loved ones. André Luiz, when he meets his grandfather, right, that is obsessed with the money and with the fortunes, so he's able to talk to his grandfather, assist him, and provide the opportunity for him to be rescued and taken to a place where he was going to be taken care of. But we don't see André Luiz mentioning him anymore after that. So he's not there taking care of his grandfather all the time, because there are people that can do better than him, the taking care of his grandfather, and he has a lot of other things to do. So again, like here, right? We have our loved ones that leave our children, leave our home, go to other places to study, to live, and it's just natural. It doesn't mean that we love them less or care less. It's just we all have to evolve, and in order to evolve, we need to sometimes take different paths, different roads, and eventually we'll be always. If the real love never separates us, we can be separated physically, but not mentally. Yes.
I have a question. We're talking about, if I go back, I'm going to see my mother, I'm going to see my grandmother, I'm going to see my grandfather, I'm going to see my brother. But at what point do I start looking at them? Because my mother could have been my daughter at one point in time, and my grandfather could have been my uncle some of the time. When do I go back and I start seeing them as such in different roles, and not as my mother or my grandmother?
Again,
am I making sense?
Yes, absolutely. It's a very good question, actually. So when we go back to the spiritual world, normally we are very connected to our last incarnation.
The last one.
Last one. So if I go back to the spiritual world, my parents are already there. I'm going to meet my parents there, and I will still have the son-parents relationship with them, because that's how I lived my life here for many, many years. Of course, as we evolve more and more, the more we are going to leave aside these relationships,
Or
specific
labels.
labels. Yes, thanks. And we'll become, you know, spiritual brothers and sisters. Everyone
Exactly.
is
Okay.
brothers and sisters. But to get there, we need to evolve a little bit more. So, you know, I go back to the spiritual world. My grandmother will be my grandmother still for some time, unless I, you know, I reach a level of evolvement. But again, well, let's talk about an exception. Let's say my mother in my previous incarnation, not this one, didn't reincarnate, is there in the spiritual world, is one of my familiar spirits protecting me and guiding me. When I go back to the spiritual world, I won't be able to see her as my as my mother from the previous incarnation, because I have the mother of this incarnation. Maybe if I go back and but eventually, what will be a spirit that I'm connected through love, but not without a label. Okay.
Yeah.
But again, she won't matter. It won't matter to her, because what matters is the real affinity and love between us, not the labels.
Exactly. No, that's a very good. Yeah, I like that. Actually, what's at stake here is it's not so much a label, but the love.
Yes, exactly.
It's a matter of identity, right? It's how I identify myself and how I identify others. So regardless, ideally would be once we discarnate, everybody's brothers and sisters, period. Are we able to do that? Not yet. We identify individuals with a series of things. One of them is that blood relationship, like grandmother, brother, sister. And I think that's one of the reasons that you can't go beyond remembers more than what we remember now in this incarnation, because then things will become extremely difficult for us. Because my grandmother could easily be, let's say, one of my sisters or one of my daughters. And then it became extremely complicated for me to, how I do identify now? Do I call her my daughter or my grandmother? What is it now? So you all will be able to identify by one way for now. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult for us. But eventually you grow up to the point that everybody's brothers and sisters, period.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're saying at this level of evolvement, okay, we somehow need the labels.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like you preserve your gender when you go back to the spiritual world, right?
Yeah.
You are male here, you're going to be male there until your next incarnation, because that's how you identify yourself, right?
Exactly.
Once you become a perfected spirit, a more perfect spirit, then, you know, the gender no longer exists. You identify as a spirit.
Yeah.
And I was thinking here while I almost talking, right? Imagine if you go back to the spiritual world and you meet Jesus, right? Face to face. He's going to relate to you as a brother. I'm not going to be able to relate to him as a brother. So I'm going to have to relate to him as the master, right?
Yeah. You're going to look at him as a master teacher.
Formal relationship with Jesus. That's
Even though intellectually we know that he is a brother, but emotionally, the way we conceptualize Jesus, it becomes impossible for us to see it as just another brother.
Yeah.
It's just impossible. So.
Yeah, because at this level, we're going to look at him as a master teacher, period. There's no way.
Danny.
But when we go back and meet all this family or some of the family, wouldn't it change also the age they left their life here? For example, if you see a parent of yours really age and decay physically, psychologically, mentally, it's a different, I think, reunion back in the spiritual world. If you lose your mother when you were like, I don't know, 22 years old, and it's way more shocking. So maybe I would see at least for myself, like meeting my father or my mother there, I don't know, it could be different emotions, like Amo was saying. So intellectually is one thing, but emotionally it changes, no?
Very
Yeah,
good.
the thing is,
Very good.
what they as we go back to the spiritual world, our feature will be the one we are comfortable with, right? So most of us somewhere between 30 and 50 years old. Now, when you see your mother there, she's going to present herself to you as someone that not the if she died like my mother that discarnated 99 years old this year, right? I'm not going to see her as a 99-year-old frail woman. Going to see her as a, I don't know, 60, 70, but I'll look at her as someone that is older than me psychologically. It's not physically, psychologically, right? Because it's your mother. Now, until when this goes, until we reach a level, as Elmo says, where we can feel comfortable in. Do you feel comfortable in calling your mother at this stage if you meet her there as your sister, and she's comfortable in dealing with you as your sister? If yes, then maybe we can, right? But it depends on each one of us. Well, Lysias in Solar still called his mother, was still the relationship was still mother and son there in the spiritual world. We don't know because we don't have the information what age they discarnated, both mother and Lysias. If it was for sure the mother was before Lysias and then he went back to the spiritual world. Maybe he went back when he was 80 and assumed a younger age to live with his mother. So, it depends, right? Again, it's an individual thing, but as Elmo said, at this stage, I don't think we're ready to move very smoothly to brothers and sisters in general. We still have some
More reincarnation to go.
some learning to do. Yes.
My point was more like not the way they would present themselves so you could recognize them, as the example you gave of your mom, but more like she left at 99, right? If she had left at 29 and you were a young man, so that was my point, like meeting her there, probably you would meet her at 29-ish, right? Not older.
Yeah.
But the feeling or the emotion or the need for this meeting, to the reunion to occur, maybe would be different. That was my point. Like maybe for you to be reunited with your mother after living with her here for 99 years on her end would be different if you were 15, when she left. That's my point. Not how they presented themselves, but more like the need or how the feeling or the emotions would be different, or maybe not. I don't know.
I think your point is very good, it's very interesting, because you using the examples, mother died at age 29, and the son lives to be 78. When they end up in the spiritual world, will the son looks older than the mom, and they will have that mother-filial relationship? If it was based only in physical appearance, would be very difficult and awkward, actually, right? So that leads me to believe, now they brought up this point, that this recognition, that identity, goes beyond that physical appearance and recognition by visual only. There is something beyond the appearance, what we perceive with the spiritual eyes in the case, but it goes well beyond that. And that makes a lot of sense to me, especially when you say, the mother died that day in the 20s, the son lives to be the 80s. When they see each other, the one gonna be look older than the other. So the physical appearance loses value there. And some things extra Of course, extra physical here, just ex appearance dominates that identity, that recognition of the two individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
But that is a very interesting point.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's maybe, and again, here's me speculating, right? Maybe the 78 years old, when he goes back to the spiritual world, he'll feel like a 5-year-old when he meets his mother again. Possibly, I don't know. It's just a point here, right? That in the first moment, of course, then it goes, it changes. But maybe the first meeting, you feel a child again, because that's when you lost your mother, right? It'd be probably traumatic for a 5-year-old to lose a mother, right? But if you think of Chico Xavier, right, that his mother died when he was 5, but he continued seeing her in the spiritual world, and he died 90 years old. And I'm sure he met his mother there, of course. How did they look at each other? She could look at him as old as he was, and he could look at her like she appeared to him when every time she appeared when he was a child, and then later when he was receiving messages from her. How do they look? Did they look? I think it's a mental connection, right? And much more than appearance. Then it becomes it has to be, right? Because otherwise it becomes too complicated.
John, quick question. What about perhaps a soul recognition, or we could say a signature of their light? Perhaps there are different vibrational intensities of light or different colorations of light that souls or spirits, I guess we should say, would recognize no matter what age. It wouldn't make a difference, really.
Very good.
I think, Carol, that yes, but that probably applies to spirits that you didn't meet in this present incarnation, right? So you meet one from so you're like the example I gave, my mother from the past incarnation, not this one. By the energy, by what you describe, we identify each other as, kindred spirits. But I think related at our level of evolvement now, related to this incarnation, we are going to see them as they looked in this incarnation. That's my understanding.
Oh, thanks. That's great. Yeah, it makes sense. Thank you. Perfect.
Okay. All right. Next. Spirit, sympathy, and antipathy, soulmates. That's an interesting one.
291. Besides the general sense of sympathy for similar beings, do spirits have any special feelings or sense of affection? Yes, just like incarnate people. However, the link between spirits is stronger when the body is gone because it is no longer subjected to the impulses of the passions.
Well, if you think that spirits are just us without the physical body, right? So what does change? The lack of the physical body can reduce the needs of the physical body and the impulses of the passions, as they say here. Can, not necessarily does, because we have many spirits that go back to the spiritual world, immersed in their passions of the physical life, and they try to stay connected to incarnate spirits so they can fulfill their passions. But in general sense, we are going to be united by our sympathy, or not united or disconnected by our sense of antipathy, right? The link between spirits is stronger because it leaves behind theoretically leaves behind the impulses of the passions of the physical body, but this is in theory. Again, we carry back to the spiritual world all our passions, our imperfections, the change can make us reconsider and reflect, but not necessarily happen. Okay.
$292. Do spirits feel hatred? Hatred only exists among impure spirits. These spirits spread hatred and cause conflict among people.
Yes, of course, Kardec is here, is investigating the nature of spirits in the spiritual world. When we go back to the spiritual world, after the spirits book, we have a lot of literature. We have all the books of André Luiz and other spiritual authors talking about what happens to spirits in the spiritual world. And we know that spirits feel hatred, spirits feel jealousy, feel anger. They have the same emotions that we incarnated imperfect spirits have. We just take them with us to the spiritual world. Of course, we may be able to overcome some of them. We may be able to overcome sometimes some hatred that relates to problems of the physical world, but in general, we change very little when we are back in the spiritual world. We continue to have our passions, our imperfections, and our qualities with us. Okay.
293. Do enemies on earth hold fast to their resentment of one another in the spirit world? No, because they see that it was stupid and meaningless. Only imperfect spirits maintain their hostility until they are purified. When spirits are dematerialized, they forget the anger they felt as incarnate people, as it was merely due to material interests. As the subject of their disagreement no longer exists, they may happily see each other again, provided there is no hostility remaining between them. Two schoolboys often realize the silliness of their quarrels when they grow up and no longer hold a grudge.
It depends on the motive that caused the resentment between two spirits, right? If they are, if the problem was due to material interests, they may overcome. If it goes beyond the material interest, right? So if it's jealousy, if it is anger for some action that doesn't relate to material interest, relates to behavior in the physical world, it's very likely that they will carry the hostility to the spiritual world, and that's the origin of many obsessions that we study about it, and we talk about in different cases, and we deal with these spirits that carry the hatred, the anger back to the spiritual world in our mediumship meetings every Monday, right? But if the subject is of lesser importance, you are angry for something that relates to the, someone deceived you in a material transaction or took advantage of you, a small thing, not big thing, and we go back to the spiritual world, we lose the attachment to these material things, and now the resentment can disappear very easily if we understand where we are and what's the purpose, right? This example that Kardec gives here, two schoolboys often realize the silliness of the quarrels when they grow up, is how we can explain these small issues between spirits the incarnated spirits that can cause resentment and can disappear when they go back to the spiritual world. But normally the big causes of resentment we carry with us, and it's very difficult to overcome them, even back in the spiritual world.
294.
Yes.
Is the memory of crimes or injuries they may have committed against one another as human beings an obstacle to sympathy between two spirits? Yes, it keeps them apart.
Yeah, the spirits are very direct here, right? If you have a big quarrel with someone else because of a crime or because of a damage, a harm that the other caused or one caused to another, it will keep them apart in the spiritual world in terms of not willing to be close to one another. It can go beyond this simple answer in terms of persecutions, obsessions, and other things that may happen in the spiritual world in the lower zones. But yes, you are not going to enjoy the company of someone you don't like in the spiritual world the same way you try not to have the company of them here when you are incarnate. Okay.
295. How do those whom we have wronged feel after death? If they are good, they forgive you once you repent. If they are bad, they may cling to their resentment against you, or even track you down in another existence. This may be allowed by God as an atonement.
So we cause harm to someone here in the physical world. We don't repair, right? We don't follow the teachings of Jesus that tells us go and reconcile with your enemies before laying your donations at the altar. So this person we wronged goes back to the spiritual world. Depends on them if they are good spirits, if they are more evolved spirits than us, they'll probably understand, forgive us, because by forgiving us, they are freeing themselves from the problem. We will continue carrying our guilty conscience. But if they are not good, they will keep trying to find ways to have their revenge. They will carry their resentment. They will try to chase us maybe in another incarnation, or maybe becoming an obsessor. And when the spirit says here, maybe allowed by God as an atonement, is again the law of cause and effect, right? We cause harm to someone, we have to face the consequences, and that consequence may be the opportunity of readjust with that spirit. If that spirit moves on and forgives us, moves on, and we cannot readjust with them because they don't need us to readjust with them, we are going to have to face the consequence with someone else facing some similar situations and having an opportunity to repair by practicing charity with someone else that was not involved in the original issue. Okay, this is important for us to remember, because we are not linked to someone that we cause wrong if that person does not carry any grudge, does not carry any resentment towards us. If they move on, they feel happy with their life, they forgive, then we cannot readjust with them, because they are no longer in need of that. Okay, so but we carry the responsibility of readjusting.
I have a little, I'm troubled a little bit
Okay.
with the statement, if they're good, they forgive you once you repent.
Oh,
So a sine qua non condition for forgiveness is repentance?
No.
No, no,
Yeah,
no.
no. I didn't pay attention to the part of the phrase. No. And
Okay.
actually, I don't even know if the original is like that. It probably is,
Oh,
because
you understand my
I understand that, and it's independent. They can forgive you even if you don't repent,
exactly.
because it's a personal choice.
Exactly, because I see forgiveness. I actually see forgiveness as a gift I give to myself.
Yes, yes, you're absolutely right, and it was good that you brought this, because I didn't pay attention to that, and you are absolutely right. It doesn't depend on me.
Yeah, it's
If I
not contingent.
yeah,
on-
If I
it's
wrong
not
someone,
contingent
for
on
them to forgive me doesn't depend on me.
But you said that you're gonna look it up in the original.
I'm going to look in the original. Yes, I don't have it here because it will
Okay.
take time. But you know, it's such a simple phrase that my belief is that the original, it's probably like that.
Yeah, I have some problem with that statement. Something is not right here.
Yeah, yeah, I'll look at it.
296.
Ran away. God,
Wow,
wow,
what happened?
I don't know. Oof. Computer got crazy here. Okay, let's go there.
Oh, we're there, 296.
Okay.
296, we're back.
Can a spirit's individual affections change? No, because they cannot be mistaken. Hypocrites can no longer hide behind a mask in the spirit world, and their sentiments, when pure, are unchangeable. The love uniting them is a source of supreme happiness.
Yeah, here what the question relates to, once you connect with someone truly, you love someone truly and vice versa, it's, you know, it becomes, eventually we are all going to be all brothers and sisters in a fraternal family, universal fraternal family. And that only adds, it doesn't subtract. So you cannot really love someone and then stop loving someone. Again, we're not talking about physical passions here. We're talking a true spiritual connection with a loved one as eternal spirits. Once we have this connection and we have this love for one another, it's not going to disappear. Again, if we are hiding, pretending to love someone here in the physical world, of course, in the spiritual world, we cannot hide behind the mask because spirits have access to our sentiments, and if it's not real, it doesn't last, right? But the love uniting spirits that true love one another is a source of supreme happiness and is unchangeable, as they say here. Right, but again, we have to take it slower as we at our level of evolution, because we struggle to love beyond our the ones that are close to us, right? So
Yeah.
the concept of universal love is still a distance objective for us.
297.
Yes.
Does the affection of two spirits carry over from this world to the spirit world? Yes, if it is based on true sympathy. If physical causes have influenced this affection more than sympathy, it ends with those causes. Affections are more solid and lasting among spirits than human beings because they are not subject to the whims of material interests and self-love.
Okay, so again, true affection carries from this world to another world because it's based on true love, right? Here we have to understand that we're talking about the affection of two spirits. When we think of a mother that loves her son or daughter, but it's not reciprocated, right? Because the son or the daughter have a problem or doesn't like the mother or have some issues with the mother. So this is not two spirits that are carrying over from this world to the spiritual world. The mother will continue to love because it's true love. If it's really true love, right? If the mother feels the true love for her children, they will carry, and she will try to help him or her in the spiritual world, even if it's not reciprocated, because the ones that you love, true love, you want to help, and it's part of our journey to progress to help all those that we care for, right? So you see André Luiz with his mother going there and trying to help him, but more important, telling him that she's going to reincarnate to be married again to the husband that betrayed her, and with two women, and he's stuck there in the lower zones with these two women, and she's going to have him as a husband again, and these two women as daughters, right? So this is the true love, trying to help and assist others, that spirits that are still struggling, where the love is still not reciprocated, right? The case of Alcione in the book of Renunciation, right? She comes here, she doesn't need to incarnate on earth. She incarnates on earth because she loves Pollux and she wants to redeem him. Spends the whole book and doesn't really succeed completely, but it's a small change that is going to have a lasting effect, right? So now, when to the question here, true spirits that true love one another, they'll carry to the spiritual world their love and their affection, right? And again, love here, we have to talk about eternal, the true love, the spiritual love, not the love that we misuse the word so many times here in the physical world.
(298) Of the souls predestined to be together from inception, and do we each have our other half somewhere in the universe with whom we will be reunited one day? No. There is no destined union between two souls. Union exists between all spirits, but in varying degrees according to their ranking or their degree of perfection. The closer to perfect, the more united they are. Disharmony produces all the problems of human life, while harmony generates perfect happiness.
Okay, here the concept of soulmates, right, which is
Wow.
question and a belief that many people have, that we have our soulmates, that we are destined to find our soulmates somewhere in the universe and be united forever with our soulmates. The spirits are very clear. There is no destined union between two souls. No, we are all individual souls. We don't lack a half. We are full spirit, and there is no part that is lacking, that is fulfilled by the other half that is missing. Now, doesn't mean that we are not going to be together with one or another spirit through several incarnations. Again, we have eternity ahead of us, and we may have an affinity with a spirit that will be together for several incarnations, like we were soulmates. But there are no such thing as soulmates in the sense that we are eternally connected, and when we were separated, we are missing a part. That concept does not exist, okay? Because again, if we think about billions and billions of spirits throughout the universe, how can you have one that is your soulmate? It doesn't really, if you think of that, it doesn't really make much sense. But again, there are people that truly believe in that.
Yeah.
We had someone that used to come to our study groups that there was no way to convince her that it was not true, that there were soulmates, and she kept bringing me literature that proved that soulmates existed. And again, it's fine. The answer I always go back is this one. There is no two spirits destined to one another, question 298, unless the spirits are lying to Kardec, which I don't believe. So, you know, I know that Leon Denis talks about soulmates, and apparently she brought one of the books of Leon Denis that he talks about soulmates. Emmanuel talks about soulmates in the Consoler, and there is, he's saying that there are soulmates, and there is an explanation by the end of the book that he says that that's not exactly what he meant. So it is a complex subject that have still many people that truly believe that there are soulmates and continue trying to find answers and explanations for it. But for me, I stay with here. The Spirit says very clear, no, there is no destined union between two souls. Cannot be more clear than that, in my opinion. But again, if you don't want to believe the spirits, it's your prerogative.
But it would be interesting, it would be interesting to find out how did that concept evolve, emerge, because it's been around. I mean,
Where did it come from?
yeah,
It comes mostly from the Symposium by Plato, which is a philosophical work, very old, that Plato wrote about a conversation between Socrates and his students, and they decided in the symposium, in this party, this dinner party, that that love was divided. That there was this concept of you finding your soulmate through the other half. But as João said, that's not another half. My only 2 cents on this, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that I've been finding a lot in the Christian theology and Christian doctrines, the idea of two people going on a mission. There's many instances where Jesus Christ asks the apostles to go out on missions in two. And the way that I've been reading this after trying to study spiritualism for years now, but not really understanding everything, is that maybe it is a concept that exists of two souls who are entwined or have been together for different causes than what's happening on planet Earth, because they are already connected spiritually from many past lives. And I think that's something that I see a possibility of happening, but that means that they are to be together for an eternity. Because I also read the concept of these two souls then following this Christian belief of two souls on a work, on a mission together, also has an end and a beginning and an end, meaning that eventually, after, I don't know, 10 million years, you move on to another partnership with another soul, also integrated into working in a Christian way. Does it make any sense, or I confuse everybody? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, it makes a lot of sense, Fabio. Thanks for Plato. I didn't know that. I'm glad that you brought this where it originates from. And I was thinking while we were talking, right? I'll think of Jesus, right? If everybody had to have a soulmate, who is Jesus' soulmate? But on the other hand, we can say, well, his mother, Mary, could be his soulmate, right? In this mission to take care of the planet Earth, right? But in that sense that you said, the two together working for the planet. So yes, I think it's possible that two spirits work together for a very long time with the same objective, but eventually, eventually we move to different paths, right? Because, and again, as you reach a certain point of evolution, the concept of dividing and conquer becomes important also, right? You don't need two Jesus on earth. One is enough, right? So the other one can be in a different world, taking care of a different world. But again, philosophically, we can reflect on that and find find explanations for the concept into that the harmony, the unity, the convergence of interests between two spirits can produce the impression that these two spirits are soulmates in the sense that they are working together. But again, the concept of soulmates as for eternity does not exist according to the spiritism. Okay.
John, Carol here again. Yeah, I think there could be soul clusters or soul groups, because I feel like I've experienced that. Like infinities with different people at different times in different locations. I mean, it's, I don't know, I guess that could be inevitable, but I know it's not random somehow. At least that's how I feel.
I have to agree with her. I think that's actually possible too, Carol. Thank you.
Oh, I agree with you also, Carol. I think that, but again, it's the expansion of the universal love. As we become more and more evolved spirit, we become more and more connected to more spirits that are vibrating at the same level as
Vibration.
we. So it goes beyond the soulmate, and we can go to group mate or things like that, right? I think.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I agree.
Think about it now, but how different can we be when we all reach perfection? How different will be our way of thinking, our likes and dislikes when we are all perfect, when we reach that level of the Christs? How different are they? And they could consider them soulmates because they are, perhaps that's the reason Jesus would say, my Father and I are one, because they are so connected in objectives and missions and thoughts that they are so much alike. Can you call them soulmate at that point? Definitely, amongst us, we could not do that because we are extremely different, even if you have a lot of things that you consider to be in common. We are still quite different. The idea that one is the half that complements the other, to me, even philosophically, is inconceivable. I have to be integral 100% with all my goods and bads, and my partner, as much as I love my partner, has to be integral 100% with all his or her goods and bads.
Yeah.
But we can be so similar in objectives and thoughts that we may call ourselves soulmates, understanding that it's just a name that we put in this relationship.
Okay, we're going to stop here. Next week, we start on 298 again, because the subject goes on through some more questions. So, and because this is the first question that talks about it, we are going to start on 298 again next week, okay?
We probably must define soulmates operationally, give a definition of that first.
Yeah.
We should start with that. Let's define that to see if we can all agree, and then take it from there. Because I usually think in terms of what culture tells me, my other half, the one that's going to complete me. You understand? That's what it's out there in culture.
Yeah. And again, if you do some research on soulmates, you're going to find different explanations, different cultures, different beliefs, right? So maybe we want to explore that also to see where do we get.
Yeah, because we shall hear said my other half.
Yeah, we say that, of course.
Oops, that's fun.
Funny, because my other half that's not complete.
Okay, so we're going to stop here. So this Saturday we have the lecture by the United States Spiritist Federation is by Bernadette Leal, Creating Conscious Joy. She's an educator from California, okay? Book club is chapter 4 of part 2 still. The book is Paul and Stephen that we're studying on Wednesday. The Spiritist group of Connecticut changed their meetings to Tuesday nights now at 7 p.m. They're studying the gospel and our daily bread. And this Sunday, which is the last Sunday of the month, we are having our Q&A session, okay? Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Yes. Thank you very much, John. Thank you very much, Elmo, and everyone participating. Infinite Creator and Divine Providence, we give thanks to be together as brothers and sisters for our study of the Spirit's book, Book 2, Chapter 6. If we did our best, or if we do our best in this physical life, our loved ones will welcome us and meet us in the spirit world to assist and help us. Impure spirits may not have the elevated consciousness to perceive family or loved ones in the spirit world. Impure spirits attract similar vibrations of inferior spirits, or they are left alone. It is a consequence of the natural law. The link between two spirits is stronger when the body is gone. We continue with our sentiments as impure spirits into the spirit world. We will need to repair our negative actions. True love is unchangeable and universal and cannot regress. There can be affinity of souls, but no total destined union between two souls as noted to be soul mates. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us this evening. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within. For our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, the mediums, the workers, the healers, and all participants. We pray for inner peace and especially for world peace and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all Spiritist centers throughout the world that they may grow, they may prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, friends, loved ones, and co-workers. May we remind ourselves to go forth as beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace and love prevail. So be it.